Yes. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by managing multiple carriers for your logistics needs and wondering how you could streamline your operations and achieve excellence? Well, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Shipsy Masterclass. We're excited to have you all join in for this informative session. Hello, my name is Anisha, and I will be your host for this evening. Today's topic is drive business growth and achieve logistics excellence with Shipsy's Multi-Carrier Management. The insightful session will be presented by my colleague Harsh Agarwal, who is the Associate Director of Pre-Sales at Shipsy. Harsh will guide us through Shipsy's solution and how they can help you optimize your logistics operations. We will also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end, so feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A window below throughout the presentation. Without further ado, let's hand it over to you, Harsh. Harsh, the floor is yours.
Hey, thank you so much, Anisha. Hey, hi, everyone. I welcome you all to this Shipsy's Masterclass, and I hope that this session will leave you enriched with the more interesting facts and what is happening in the market and how we can actually solve the problems of multi-carrier management. So before we start on with the product demonstration and we see how Shipsy can solve those multi-carrier management problems for you, I really want to understand and basically, deep dive into why exactly a multi-carrier flow is needed. So why should you be working with multiple carriers in the first place? So these are the few drivers of multi-carrier adoption. So let's say if you want to service larger geographies, do a network extension where you're not present, it comes in really handy over there. Using multiple carriers enables you to provide more services like next day delivery, same day delivery, the slotted delivery options, which may not be available with your own fleet. So you can outsource them to the companies that are very much capable of doing those. Of course, since these third-party carriers have large operations, they have streamlined operations, they pass on those benefits to you as their customers, and you can realize those reduced logistics cost as compared to managing these operations by yourselves. And obviously, there would be the reliability because if you're using service of a good 3PL provider, then obviously the customer services liability comes along with that. So I want to really talk about the challenges that, let's say if you've decided to work with multiple carriers, what are the different challenges that the organizations face? So primarily there are categorized into two heads, which are the business barriers and the tech barriers. Business barriers basically pertain to the lack of system which connects the allocation to the business objectives. So let's say if I want to select a particular carrier, prefer a particular carrier or another, if you're not using a tech-enabled system, then it is primarily based upon the rudimentary understanding or the intuition per se. But the business objectives of, let's say, reducing the costs or improving the turnaround time is what is a big barrier for businesses to adopt multiple carriers. Then the performance measurement is a problem. So again, that's that. Also, most of these carriers provide the last mile deliveries. There is no orchestration of the middle mile and the multi-leg piece as well. And obviously, there is no standardization of NDRs as well. Now, with respect to the tech barriers, of course, managing multiple carriers needs multiple tech integrations with their own APIs, their systems, so that bookings can be created, tracking can be fetched from those, and the label printing, etc. Right? And obviously, you would need to maintain the tech talent in order to manage all of those carrier integrations. So hence, it's not very easy and convenient to manage the carriers on your own, right, as a business, because that's not your core business per se. Your core business is selling your products, and the fulfillment is something that probably stops you from achieving your goals. So finally, we want to cover that how Shipsy can actually enable you to achieve those your objectives and to mitigate the problems that we just now saw. We have a best-in-class dynamic order allocation engine that can take into account the performance of the carriers whilst allocating these carriers new bookings. Right. The system can digitize the rate and the TAT masters within the system, or can dynamically fetch these TATs and rates via APIs from the carrier so that the dynamic allocation can happen, right? Uh, we also provide cross-border carrier management functionality. We provide hyperlocal integrations as well for the hyperlocal deliveries, right? And obviously, there is superior customer communication and a uniform customer communication across different carriers. So this is how we basically, power the multi-carrier management for our customers. Now, I believe this is the time for our first poll, and I would request Anisha to launch our first poll. You will be seeing the poll on your screen. So I just wanted to have a quick understanding that how many carrier partners are you currently working with? This really gives us an understanding of the scale of the problem at hand. So we can give a few more seconds for the poll to complete. Yeah, so I see a few respondents. Many respondents are working with the carriers in the range of 5 to 10, and there are few that are even working with 20 plus carriers. So again, the enormity of the problem really increases because managing, let's say, 2, 3, 4, 5 integrations are is still achievable. It's still possible, but as soon as this really, uh, the magnitude of the problem increases as and when the carriers increase, right? So perfect. Thanks for the responses. Now we'll quickly move on to the product demonstration and we will see how Shipsy can power the multi-carrier management for you. All right. So let me go into the product itself. All right. I hope my screen is visible. Perfect. So the first thing that comes into the picture is onboarding a carrier. So now a solution should be able to provide very easy onboarding for a carrier on the platform. Now we already have tech integrations with more than 150 plus carriers across the globe, and it becomes very easy for any of our customers to add a courier partner onto the platform for them. So as you see on your screen, we have an entire integration marketplace where all the third-party logistics providers that we have integration with are provided over here. And it becomes very easy to add any carrier partner onto the platform. Let's say I want to add a Blue Dart as a courier partner. I can simply click on that Blue Dart and provide those specific credentials that a carrier shares with me. So you need to provide your respective details of the license keys, etc. And it is that simple. Just punching in your details will enable you to use your carrier partner onto the platform. It's as simple as that. The entire backend work of doing those tech integrations is handled by the Shipsy team. It's already handled by the Shipsy team. Now, interestingly, when we talk about the integrations, we have integrations with these carriers at multiple fronts. There is a booking integration, there is a label generation integration. So as soon as the booking is created with the carrier, you can print out the labels in the carrier's format, right? We also have tracking integration. So as and when the carrier partners, the courier partners are providing the tracking updates, it gets seamlessly updated using our tracking integrations. So you, as a customer, has a consolidated view of the entire tracking in one single place, right? And apart from that, if there are carriers who are supporting the RTO, the return to origin flows, then that is also supported as a part of our integrations, right? A quick word on the carrier partners. Let's say if there is a carrier partner that is not part of the existing list, we have a dedicated tech team which can quickly onboard a new courier partner for our customers. Okay. So now let's say we have onboarded a carrier partner onto the platform. Now comes the process of setting up those allocation rules. So let me quickly show you how you can very quickly set up the allocation rules in the system. So we have created a very robust, a very user-friendly kind of an allocation engine for you, wherein you yourself can create those rules and system will automatically, as in when the orders get pushed, they will follow the rules and based upon the rules, they will allocate a particular carrier. Now, what you're seeing on your screen is the allocation engine that is available for the admin users for our customers. It's very interesting to see that how we have created a very simple flowchart. It's very user-friendly and understandable. So let's say if I try to read this particular first one, it says that for a particular customer, it can be any customer, any business customer, you want the following courier partners to be eligible for. So let's say Blue Dart, Delivery, DHL are eligible, right? And for the eligible ones, for the ones for which the first attempt delivery percentage is more than 80%, you want the cheapest one to get allocated. If there are multiple couriers that are providing the cheapest service, then you go with the fastest one, right? It's very simple to create a rule. Let's say if I want to create a new rule, and the rules can be based upon any sort of a parameter. I explained you one rule on the business customer. Another rule can be based upon, let's say, a particular type of service. If let's say you want to offer an express delivery or a next day delivery. So let's say for next day delivery, as an example, you have certain courier partners that are providing you the next day delivery. Let's say Aramex and DHL are providing you the next day delivery options. Within those, you want to put the sortation parameters of, let's say, a cheapest first or a fastest first. Now, in addition to that, the cheapest and fastest are primarily dependent upon the static parameters, the static rate, and the turnaround time masters. But the system also learns from the performance of the courier partners. And you can use the performance as a metric for allocation. Let's say if I use the highest percentage of successful delivery orders, then the courier partners having that particular parameter as the highest percentage of successful delivered orders over the period of, say, 1 week, then the system will allocate that particular courier partner the order. And hence you will create multiple rules depending upon the use cases. So this is a brief about our allocation engine. Okay. Now, once an allocation engine rule is set, then primarily the flow is the order gets pushed into Shipsy system. And as soon as the order gets pushed in, they get booked based upon these allocation rules. And once they get booked, you will be able to view them in this consolidated dispatch section. Now you would see that the system has automatically bifurcated them into the third party or the self bucket. And as soon as the orders get booked with the carriers, the system automatically generates the carrier AWB number. Right? This gets generated because the booking integrations are already in place. Right? Now, when the carrier AWB numbers are already generated, the users, the dispatchers, can print out the labels in the carriers format. So just to show you an example, the labels can be generated in the format of the carriers. So this is one such example of a label. There's another example, let's say, of a DPD. It's a demo label for you guys. Yeah. So you leveraging our label integrations, the labels can be printed in the carriers format because that is necessary for the movement across the carriers supply chain network. All right. Now, once the orders are booked with the carriers, the labels are printed, the labels can be stuck on the labels on the parcels, and either one or multiple orders can be handed over to the courier partner. So if I go to the third party tab, I can go ahead and hand over these parcels in a single or multiple fashion to these courier partners, right? And as soon as I hand over these parcels to the couriers, the tracking starts happening. So depending upon how or whatever statuses these couriers are sending to Shipsy, they will start getting populated. And just to show you how they would look like, this would be the consolidated screen, a single window view across all the carrier partners that you're using for all of your shipments. So if you see, this particular list has shipments from different courier partners on your screens, right? Now, the system automatically bucketizes them based upon the latest statuses that are getting fetched from the carrier partners. So you would observe that under all shipments, there are some shipments in the delivered bucket, some shipments are in the offer delivery bucket, undelivered, so on and so forth. Some are in the RTO as well, right? Now, if I talk about the tracking per se, right? Then if I click on a certain courier partner on a certain AWB, so to say, then the exact tracking of the courier partner that they are providing is available. The entire detailed tracking along with the date stamps and time stamps. Okay. Now, the user also has options to provide some specific tags for the management of these particular uh, parcels. So these are few configurable tags that they can assign. They have an option to view the attempt history, right? And the system keeps a track of how many attempts were made and at what time, right? Now, one interesting thing I want to mention over here is that we have an entire status mapping engine that maps the different statuses coming from these carriers into the internal statuses of Shipsy. Now, how it really helps, it enables you to expose a unified tracking statuses to your customers. So your customers really don't care that if a parcel it's coming to them via, let's say, Aramex or a DHL or a Blue Dart. It's you who are sending them their respective parcels. So they really need not be worried and bogged down by the detailed tracking statuses that are being generated by the couriers. So the mapping engine, powered by machine learning algorithms, takes into consideration and bucketizes them into the unified statuses that can be exposed to the customers. Okay. We also provide a single window view for the non-deliveries. So all the NDRs, non-delivery that are happening, we provide a single window view for the dispatchers and the managers to manage. Now they have an option to add any tags like I mentioned previously. They also have an option to put the remarks for the carrier. So let's say the carrier is saying that he could not attempt because let's say the door was locked or the customer was unavailable. Then they can actually put the remarks for the carrier and they can also put the next steps from here itself. So the carrier would know if they have to reattempt or they will have to, let's say, do an RTO. You can put those shipper next steps. These are configurable. You can put those next steps over here itself. So you need not really, let's say, coordinate with the carrier in a unorganized fashion separately. Through this one single interface itself, this could be done. Okay. And again, this entire mapping engine that I was talking about, all the carrier reasons are mapped to Shipsy's internal reasons, and hence a unified communication or a tracking can be exposed to your end customers. Perfect. So I believe we have seen a lot of capabilities from the Shipsy's multi-carrier management perspective. I'll take a quick pause, and I believe it's time for our next poll question as well. So I'll request Anisha to put in the poll. And in the meantime, I can go through the questions that might have come in. So I'll just answer to one of the questions mentioned in the Q&A section by Vivek. Yes, we are connected with the shipping lines like Costco, MSC, etc. But that's a different solution. That's an import-export solution. In that solution, we provide container tracking with the shipping lines, like you mentioned. We also have air cargo tracking that we provide as a part of our import-export solution. While this solution is primarily focused on the, the multi-carrier courier movement, so to say. It can be cross-border, it can be domestic movements, but it's not the shipping lines per se. That's a different solution, and we can definitely organize a next masterclass that's focused on our import export solution. I'm sure Anisha is going to take a note. Perfect. So I think we have our poll completed. Let me quickly have an understanding. All right. So the poll was, what are your top challenges based upon the discussion so far? So yeah, fetching tracking updates is a problem. Major problem is status mapping. That's interesting. And carrier allocation. Amazing. And onboarding a new carrier as well. Perfect. So yeah, I understand that pretty much all are a problem, all the options. It really helps me, get a sense that, providing a unified status mapping engine becomes very imperative for a good customer experience per se, right? And I'm sure a carrier allocation engine as simple as the one we saw makes it very easy for the business users to actually create those nuanced rules so that you can utilize and utilize the carriers where they are actually, performing the best. So yeah, perfect. So I think we can move ahead. All right. So now I would want to talk more about, let's say, once the tracking is done, once the products have reached safely to the customers, we have an entire communication engine, leveraging which the end customers, like your customers, can actually provide the feedback, and that feedback directly comes into that feedback loop, and we can generate analytics on top of that as well. So we will also show you how the analytics look like. Also, let's say at the month end, when the courier partner actually raises an invoice for the services that they've rendered to you, the system has an engine wherein it can enable you to compare the cost that the courier partner has charged you, the price that they've charged you, vis-a-vis what they actually should have charged based upon the rate masters that you have agreed with them. So let me quickly show you the price calculator feature that we have. So if you closely have a look over here, using this module, so if you closely observe, there's a carrier AWV number and all the details pertaining to a particular parcel. Now, interesting thing is the second last column that you see is the courier final price, which the system has computed based upon the rate masters that were digitized in the system, right? And finally, in the last column is the courier amount that the courier partners have actually charged you. So the system has the capability of comparing at each AWB level that what is the discrepancy. So you would notice that the discrepancy has been highlighted in the red so that you don't actually have to compare these AWBs manually. So you can only take into consideration the ones where there is a mismatch, and you can simply take it forward with the courier and raise a dispute with them. So this particular module really eliminates the entire effort of manually comparing and reconciling the invoices against each variable, and it can really provide you a lot of time savings in that sense. So that's on the uh, price calculator module. And finally, I wanted to talk to you about the analytics piece. So we have the entire analytics engine wherein a lot of out of the box dashboards and reports can be created, right? So you see few examples wherein we have created a few samples of, let's say, historical courier allocation by the courier partners, the courier delivery trend that is comparing the first attempt delivery percentages of different carriers on month-on-month basis. So you can actually live track the performance of these carriers over here, right? The first attempt delivery trends, how it is faring on a month-on-month basis, right? The turnaround time distributions, right? These are few out of the box dashboards and reports that we provide to our customers. There's an entire NDR, the dashboard based upon the NDRs as well. So the top 5 NDR regions, so to say, and all of those things. So that's more or less on the analytics portion that we provide you. All right. Okay. Feel free to put in your questions in the chat box, and I'm happy to take those questions. We are almost towards our last section. We would want to proceed with the case studies